Hello, and welcome to the Drawing Animal Podcast with Wesley Bear. I'm your host, Wesley Bear, and on today's episode, in continuing my book theme of cats and dogs, in my book Cunning Cats and Daring Dogs, I've decided to do a whole month-long series on things that are not cats and dogs, but look like cats and dogs. So on today's episode, we will be talking about the brown hyena. The brown hyena is, of course, a hyena belonging to the group of animals known as hyenas that are pretty commonly known as the animals that laugh a lot from Lion King. But of course, there's a whole lot more to hyenas than that. They may look dog-like, but in fact, scientists believe, and this is kind of hard information to get across with genetics and exactly how these things pan out. And who knows if any of this is exactly true, but supposedly, hyenas are actually the closest relatives of meerkats and mongooses. So Timon is the closest relative to hyenas, which is ironic because on Lion King, of course, we have hyenas trying to eat Timon quite a bit in that movie. So ironic, but yes. But the brown hyena is not the species that most people think of. When people think of hyenas, they think of the largest of the hyenas being the spotted hyena. The brown hyena is actually the second largest of the hyenas, which actually there are four species, of which the other two is the striped hyena, the only one being somewhat native to Asia, as all four species can be found in Africa. And then there is the uh, less than harmful aardwolf, which we may talk about sometime, which is a whole other can of worms. But the brown hyena is basically kind of a darker, more maned version of the striped hyena. Um, it's known for being, of course, a dark brown in color, but also having lighter patterns around the face, legs, and tail. Um, the brown hyena is found mainly in southern Africa, where it used to be pretty widespread, but now is kind of scattered across kind of the lower spine of Africa from about Namibia in the west all the way to almost the other side, almost to about Mozambique, but not quite. Being found more predominantly in the nations of Zimbabwe and Zambia. But the most common place to find them is in the deep deserts of the Namib. So it's a desert dwelling animal that relies mainly on scavenging carrion. And of course, that's important for cleaning up the desert environment and keeping away disease. But it also means that hyenas actually have to travel quite a long distance in order to find food. Um, so they have to travel almost thousands of kilometers at a time in order to find food. They will form groups of about 5 to 10, up to about 15, but that kind of just depends on the nature of the clans, and especially the fact that most clans tend to encompass animals that are related to one another, so they're not unrelated groups of animals. And usually, if one grows up, they'll eventually leave the clan on their own to find a new clan at some point, especially if they're male. Females tend to stick around in clans while the males leave to find a new mate. But it does make hunting pretty difficult, and which is why Both males and females are responsible for gathering food. It just cuts down on wasted time and energy in order to find food. Um, and both um, sexes will take turns also then caring for the young as well. The young are born blind and pretty helpless, so all that is necessary in order to keep the clan functioning. In fact, brown hyenas have a fairly long time by which the young stick around and take time to grow and develop into mature adults. It actually takes about 15 months for brown hyena cubs to be fully winged, and it'll be 2.5 years till a brown hyena is fully mature. So definitely takes a lot of time and effort to raise brown hyena cubs. And that's just due to all these environmental factors of being raised in a very harsh desert environment where travel in order to find resources takes up tons of time and energy. Um, the other thing that I kind of brought up earlier is they're pretty scattered across southern Africa. They used to be pretty widespread again, but numbers have declined to anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 animals. Mostly populations have dropped due to trapping or poisoning in fear of livestock and sometimes even pets. There have been cases known of hyenas being kept as pets, especially by those who can afford it, but also just as kind of like a symbol that you're kind of a powerful person in the area. But mostly it's due to poisoning in order to keep animals away from their livestock. So definitely an animal that's in decline. Thankfully, numbers are kind of stable, but the other problem is due to their scattered populations, it can be hard and rare to find these animals. One other interesting thing about brown hyenas that's distinct from other hyenas is that they are actually pretty coastal animals. In parts of Namibia, they've been known to live quite closely along the ocean coast of Namibia, and so they've often been spotted hunting seals, and especially young abandoned seal pups. So that's something you don't often see, of course, with hyenas when you think open plains grassland, but it is actually a common sight in the areas where actually um, brown hyenas are actually seen most often. So that's another thing that brown hyenas are known for being distinct in. Um, so yeah, there is the brown hyena. Uh, if you want to learn more about things that are cats and dogs, unlike the brown hyena, you can get my book, Cunning Cats and Daring Dogs, available on Amazon. I just also want to recommend the main resource that I use for this book, which is Kingdon's Guide to African Mammals. It's a older book at this point, but still very helpful and actually gives a nice field guide to most of the animals in Africa, even some of the more obscure stuff. It's a pretty complete, and the illustrations done by I think Kingdon himself are very, very well done. So a book I would actually highly recommend if you were ever to do a field guide for Africa. It's sometimes a bit nicer than kind of just the stale kind of photograph things. It doesn't have a lot in terms of like tracks or um, like identifying hair or something like that. For that, you may need a more detailed guide for Africa, but Kingdom's Guide is a good kind of straight uh, overview without too much detail. So that was the main source that I used for this episode. So, um, yep, and that's it. So enjoy nature, enjoy drawing, enjoy God's creation, and have a wonderful day.